Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center. Welcome to Knife AQ number 69, the knife series where I answer all your questions, whether they're sharp or dull. We got a nice episode for you guys today. We're going to be talking about some long-term hiking knife solutions, whether you should trim your fingernails with a knife, and even, is the steel on a Swiss Army knife any good at all? Let's get right into it. All right, folks, if you're new to this series, here's the deal. You leave your questions in the comments sections of these videos, and we'll go through and pick out some good ones to feature on one of these episodes. So you know what to do. First question today, topic of the day, comes from Alex Strauss, who says, I wish Victorinox used other steels besides their generic stainless that they've been using. I wonder why they haven't yet. The answer to that is they really don't need to. Plain and simple. But you take someone with the scale of Victorinox, the maker of the Swiss Army knife, and they outshine the next several competitors combined. I've heard varying figures. The next top 10 knife companies in the world don't even come close to equaling what Victorinox puts out on a yearly basis. They're just that massive. And I think the reason for that is they target a slightly different audience. Yes, enthusiasts in this niche of the knife world that you and I are part of, we love a Swiss Army knife, but we're only part of the broader population of the world, and a Swiss Army knife kind of has a bit of a universal appeal. They're seen as utilitarian, they're seen as cool, even by non-knife people, even by folks who knives, the things we get into day to day, aren't even on their radar, but they like a Swiss Army knife. Now, because a Swiss Army knife targets such a large audience, that simpler stainless steel they use here is actually an asset for a few reasons. One, it helps them keep the price down a bit, as opposed to using a more complex or a more expensive steel. And also, they're easier to sharpen, and that's good for the non-enthusiasts as well as the enthusiast users like you and me, and I'll get into that. But knife is going to go dull eventually, absolutely, and when that non-niche user, that non-knife enthusiast goes to sharpen it, they're not going to have a too hard a time getting it done, if they even decide to try and sharpen it themselves anyway. That's a discussion for another day. But they're at least not going to get too frustrated by trying to sharpen this knife and then put the knife down and not carry their Swiss Army knife anymore. That's a good thing, because Swiss Army knives are also a great gateway into this niche environment. The other thing is, I know how to sharpen, and being such a simple steel to sharpen here, I can get such a screaming sharp, scary edge on blades made out of their steel right here, which is oh so satisfying. It's not gonna last all that long, especially not at the utmost of sharpness, but with a Swiss Army knife, with a freshly sharpened edge and the thin blade stock like this, there's almost nothing that is as satisfying as the cutting action you're gonna get out of something like that. Getting back to the scale, would I buy a Swiss Army knife if they had an option for a more premium steel? Yeah, I probably would. But herein we get into problems with economies of scale. The bigger the operation is, the harder it is to actually introduce some parts variations like that without the cost going out of control and without just creating a big logistical nightmare for these models. You can see what would happen now. They're going to take this, let's say they use something like CPM 154, just for kicks. They put it out on a knife and everyone goes, ooh, rah, hooray, yes. But that's not the Swiss Army knife I like. When are you going to put it on this knife? And that's all they're going to hear until they put it on everything. And then you've doubled the SKUs and part numbers on every knife out there. It's a bit of a can of worms for them to get into. I mean, this is my Swiss Army knife of choice, the Evo Grip S18. It travels with me pretty much everywhere. When are they going to get around to this model? Who knows? There are some options out there, though, if you are looking for a Swiss Army style knife with some upgraded steels. Not many, but I would look to the MKM Malga 6. We've got an M390 blade on these guys, and they're right around $100. So again, significantly more expensive. I mean, the S18 here is like 60, but you can get almost the same number of tools as this knife for less than 40 bucks. Most people are going to pay that over something like this any day of the week. Even some enthusiasts are probably going to pick that less expensive knife in a lot of cases. So Does that answer why I think they don't do it and why I don't think they actually need to either? Perhaps.
Safe to say Victorinox hasn't done it wrong.
That's the thing. Like, they're on top. There is no bigger knife, pocket knife maker in the world by far. So they're doing something right. Next question here comes from Dan. Simply Dan. Hey DCA, I wanted to ask your expert opinion on knives for maintaining your fingernails. It's something many of us do, from trimming our cuticles to cleaning under our fingernails to trimming the fingernail down. Are there any knives you would recommend specifically for these tasks? Would you recommend partial serrations or non-serrated, blade shape, blade steel, etc.? I'm eager to see if the resident expert has some recommendations between $20 and $80. P.S. Say hi to Seth for me. Hi, Seth. He's over there somewhere. Yes, I have some knives I would recommend for use cleaning your fingernails, but not for the reasons you might think. Don't use, I hate the idea of actually using the blade on a knife to trim your fingernails. It's imprecise. It's real easy to get in the wrong place, cut yourself a little bit. Nah. I'm a big fan of using the right tool for the job. So in this case, I'd recommend this, the Kershaw platform. It's about $42. You've got a 2 3/4 inch, almost 3 inch blade of 8CR stainless, simple stuff. It is a dual detent style, or actually it's not a dual detent now that I look on the inside. But it's not a traditional slip joint, but it is a non-locking knife. And the reason I recommend this for maintaining your fingernails is it's got nail clippers built in to the knife. There you go. It's really nicely integrated actually. Folds right up, never gonna get in the way till you need it. Pull this tab up, and that tab itself has fingernail file, which is gonna help you clean up the edges after you trim things. You've got a section here at the tip for cleaning underneath the fingernails, and you could probably even do some cuticle stuff with that. And then you've just got a good pair of clippers there for fingernails. Works great on like clothing tags, other stuff like that. There you go. Don't be taking like a big Bowie knife or anything else trimming the nails. I've done trimming of the fingernails with a pocket knife before, and it's always terrible looking. It's just awful. I still use a pocket knife, however, to maintain my nails. It's actually my S18, but I don't use that blade. You've got a good pair of scissors there, and the reason that I choose, one of the main reasons I choose this knife over a lot of other Swiss Army knives is it's a little bit harder to find a nail file with all the other tools I want. So you got a fingernail file right here. That's your male grooming kit right here, is the Swiss Army knife, because you've got scissors, you've got the nail file, and you got a pair of tweezers as well. That's what I would recommend. Or not, do whatever you like, but I got a Band-Aid for you if you need it later.
Maybe some gauze.
Maybe. Accidents can happen real easily at something like that. All right, next question comes from Kyle Wisman, who says, comparison between Baby Banter and Lil Native. Curious on your thoughts. Sure thing. So this is kind of timely. Earlier in this week, Seth and I, we did a video on big and small EDC combos, and the Lil Native and the Baby Banter were the knives I chose as that 5th pocket companion knife to go with the larger knife. So let's take a look at the both of them here. We've got the Baby Banter, about $60, and the least expensive Lil Native right now, the compression lock version, is about $142. So more than twice the price. So that could be your deciding factor right there. Size-wise, Lil Native is obviously a little bit larger than the Baby Banter, not by much, but by a noticeable amount. And that's going to translate into the feel in the hand as well. Both of these knives have a finger choil there, so you can affect as much of a grip on the knife as you can. For the Lil Native, I can just get all 4 of my fingers on that handle while using the choil. With the Baby Banter, it's more of a 3.5 finger grip. You can see there, I'm kind of hanging off the back edge just a little bit. So if you want, between these two, if you value a slightly girthier handle, you want as much kind of meat to hold on to as possible, Lil Native is going to be your choice. But if you want the more compact one, the Baby Banter is going to be your choice. As far as the locks on these knives, we've actually got 3 options. Baby Banter has your liner lock. This Lil Native has the compression lock, and you've also got a backlock version of the Lil Native. Backlock, of course, is going to be the least fidget friendly of any of these. Both of these other two knives have a good bit of a fidgetability to them. I happen to like personally a compression lock because you can keep your fingers out of that blade path when closing, so that could be an important thing for you. But all of them are going to be plenty strong enough for what you're going to want to do with a smaller knife like this. But again, the Lil Native having a little bit more, you might be inclined to push it a little bit farther. I probably would trust the compression lock a little bit more than the liner lock. Not that I don't trust that liner lock. We're just talking degrees of separation here. Back to that grip we were just speaking about, the way they do the choils there is a little bit different on these two knives. Now, with the Baby Banter's choil, you can see there's a little bit of jimping right there, and the heel of the blade, the edge here right at the back, has what's called an overgrind, meaning it grinds, or the edge comes all the way back and through into that choil section. So that's why they give you a little bit of jimping to give you a little bit of extra traction, because you have to be a little bit more careful with this style of choil. You don't want to kind of inch forward and have the back edge of that blade kiss your finger while you're in the middle of something else. Now on the Lil Native, we do not have an overgrind on that choil section. You can see the plunge line stops right in front of that choil, and they don't give you any jimping here either. This can be a little bit more safe, again, if you're slightly worried about that. There's a little extra degree of margin of error built into that. And then the other advantage this style of plunge grind has is if you're cutting through something fibrous, maybe like plastic bags or something, the shoulders of that grind can actually keep it from sliding back off of the edge into the choil area. That's something true of any choils out there, but it'll be a little bit easier to sharpen that Baby Banter because you don't have the shoulder to get in the way. You've just got a clean pass at the heel of the edge. Blade length, a little bit more if you're talking tip to scale on the Lil Native, and a little bit more on the edge itself. You've got S30V steel on the base models of the Lil Native, so definitely more edge retention than the Nitro V on the Baby Banter. Is it twice the edge retention, since we're talking more than double the price? Probably not, maybe, I don't know. But in terms of outright slicing performance, they're gonna be kind of similar. You've got thicker blade stock on the Lil Native, but the full flat grind is higher than the flat grind on the Baby Banter. Both of them are gonna be pretty efficient, I'd say. All right, what else haven't we talked about? Pocket clips. Both are pretty deep carry. The Baby Banter is more deep carry, but the wire clip on the Lil Native is a little less knife-like from the outside, so you do have a little bit sticking up. Take your pick there, but both of them are reversible, which is quite nice. Only other difference I can think of right now is if you want a serrated edge, you can get that in the Lil Native format right there, and you can't get that on the Baby Banter right now. So, hope that helps. All right, next we come to George Spence, who asks, what knife would you take on an extended backpacking trip? It needs to be lightweight and capable of doing everything from food prep to self-defense to bushcraft. It can be a folder or fixed blade. Spoiler, I would pick a Mora knife of some sort. I would also pick a Mora because that's the right choice. Interesting cross-section though you mentioned food prep and tactical uses, self-defense, a subset of tactical, in addition to the bushcraft. And it's interesting. When we're talking like a cross between bushcraft and tactical, the bushcraft black from Mora is the first thing that comes to mind with its full-length Scandi grind, but I've never really liked Scandi grinds very much for food prep. So, how about the Bushcraft Forest from Mora? It's about $42. You've got the same blade profile as the Bushcraft Black or the orange-handled stainless bushcraft out there. You've got the Scandi grind, so you can still do your cool bushcraft stuff here at the back, whether you're making feather sticks, carving, notching, that sort of thing. But you've got a couple things going on here that make it a little better for that food prep side of things. Thinner blade steel for one, so it's going to slice easier, and a scalloped front belly edge or belly section of the blade, where they've removed a lot of that shoulder behind the Scandi grind to make it a little slicier. Going to work well at hunting type of tasks, as well as any kind of slicing thing, such as doing some food prep. Not sure what kind of food prep you need in an extended backpacking scenario, whether you're packing food in or catching food while you're on the go. But this is going to be a little bit nicer than something like, well, I have the example over here, the full Scandi grind, or the non-scalloped front Scandi grind, there's a name for that somewhere, of the standard bushcraft series with its thicker blade steel as well. Going to be a lot happier, or I would be a lot happier with the bushcraft forest. And the handle has a little bit of a nod to like tactical usage, because you've got more of a finger guard right here than something that has, let's say, a more neutral handle shape, like this knife we're going to look at here in a second. And you've got enough of a point to use defensively if you need to. They're nice and lightweight. The sheaths don't take up a lot of space on your belt or add a lot of weight. I mean, this guy right here, the knife itself is just over 4 ounces, so it's really, really easy and really affordable too. Some other options you could look at is this knife I just held up a second ago, the Condor Bush Glider. It's a 1095 carbon steel blade, comes in about 46 bucks. You've got a full flat grind on that blade that's going to do the slicing stuff really well, whether you're doing game processing or food prep. You can still do bushcraft stuff, even though it's not going to bite quite as deeply or nicely as a Scandi grind would. And you don't get quite as much finger guard protection here, but I'm a little confused about what kind of self-defense you have in mind, whether it's animal life or other humans on the trail. I don't know. Be that as it may, keep that in mind if you're looking at this particular one. Full tang strength, or full length tang at the very least. You've got a protruding pommel here at the back you can use for scraping, other types of stuff like that, especially if you're doing like bushcraft projects to keep your mind busy when the sun goes down. I really like using the scraper at the back here for scraping out bowls in if you're making a little cup or a spoon or something like that, and you're using embers to kind of burn it out. It's another nice use for that right there. These guys are a little bit heavier, about 5.5 ounces, so not quite as light as the Mora, but I also wanted to show you another premium option if you want something a little bit nicer. Bushcrafter HC from LT Wright Knives. Weight on these, actually it's about the same as that Bush Glider. We've got 5.3 listed on the site right now, and this comes with a leather sheath too, so if you want something rather than the plastic with these other two knives, you've got that available. 4-inch spear point blade, 1075 carbon steel with a high flat grind, kind of a 2/3 of the way up the blade itself, and fairly thin blade stock. So it's a great all-rounder. Good for the food prep, good enough for some self-defense in a pinch. You've got some finger guard protection right here, but you've got an insanely comfortable handle for everything else that you're going to be doing 99.9% of the rest of your time. Whether you're carving stuff out by the fire, whether you're manipulating it for some food prep, these things are awesome, and they're not too expensive either. I mean, the cheapest ones of these, about 105 bucks. This one right here with red linen micarta is 120 with a sheath, made in the USA with a lifetime warranty. I'm telling you, it doesn't get much better than that for the money. And the fact that they're not all that much more heavier than the Moras that are out there, or at least the Moras that I think make the most sense for your question, definitely take a look. All right, now we come to the lightning round for today. Hey DCA, says B. Sybil. I got an LT Wright Bushcrafter HC. Good for you. And was wondering how to take care of the carbon steel blade. Keep up the great work. Sure thing. Super easy. Keep it clean, keep it dry, and maybe wipe it down with some oil every once in a while. If you're not sure what type of oil to use, start with mineral oil before getting into some of the more advanced stuff out there. Should have no problem. That's the biggest thing. Keep it clean, keep it dry. And check out our recent restock of these knives right now to everyone else who's watching. Oh, and one more thing. Don't store the knife in the sheath if you're keeping it at home. I kind of do it anyway. I break that rule myself, but it can trap moisture a little bit, and you can get some discoloration on the blade or the handle in some instances. So that's something you could do as well. Next question comes from Nick S. It says, please, what would you recommend for a bench-mounted belt sander for blade construction? 4 inches wide, 1 inch wide, 1 inch wide. Sorry, I said inches. He said 1 inch. I'm old, so not averse to shopping for a relic. Thanks for the entertainment and knowledge and good fun. Cheers. So what you're gonna, well, there's no single right answer. There's a lot of different stuff out there, but by far the most popular format for knife makers is a 2x72 belt grinder. Lots of machines out there that take that kind of belt, and you're gonna have the widest variety of belts available that are gonna be friendly to a knife maker, because it's the big dog. That's where everyone is targeting the best stuff, and you'll have no problem finding that all over the place. Could certainly do other things, like I said. I use a dual 2x48 setup myself, but still a popular format, but the 2x72 by far is kind of the king of the format. All right, Jim Kissel asks, why is there no love for serrations anymore? I like a combo edge and the utility of serrations. Am I on my own here? I wouldn't say you're on your own, but when we're talking the niche community, you're definitely in the minority. I almost said probably. Definitely a bit more in the minority. I can definitely appreciate the utility of serrations. They have a very aggressive cutting profile. The edge tends to last longer because you've got more edge doing the cutting, but they're still gonna go dull eventually, and then they're harder to sharpen than a plain edge, and that's probably why most enthusiasts steer away from it. I know it's why I tend to as well. I'd rather just have a good, sharp, plain edge pretty much all day, every day. So, no shame in loving a combo edge, though. Don't take this as a personal attack, Jim. We come to the most serious question of the day, which comes from Gideon's Stuff. Hey DCA, got a question from a caveman friend of mine. He asks, ugh, need new cut thing, kill mammoth, need skin, guh.
Quite the poet.
Sure. He asked for an obsidian blade, but I think an upgraded materials would be all right. Probably not a folder because he still doesn't even understand how wheels work. Thanks. How about the Condor Otzi, my friend? 64 bucks for this guy, 1095 carbon steel, so it's more advanced, but it's not so advanced. It's gonna make him, go hide in the bushes like there's fire there that he's scared of, or, well, cavemen have fire, but you know what I mean. These things are really cool. They actually modeled this after a knife they found on Otzi or Otzi, the frozen caveman. I forget where exactly they found him, but they found this body of a man frozen, and he had a small knife that looked a lot like this, just not with modern materials, of course. So this is right out of his era, I certainly think. Plus, it's just a really cool little carving knife, too. Check that bad boy out. All right, that is all I've got for you today, folks. Again, as mentioned at the top, if you're looking to have a chance to get one of your questions featured in this series, don't hold back. Drop them in the comments below. There's no question beneath us. Like I said, I answer sharp and dull questions sometimes. Leave them down there in the comments, and if you want to check out these knives on our website, we'll have links down below that'll take you over to KnifeCenter.com. Make sure you sign up for the Knife Rewards program, as I always mention at this point in the video, because if you're gonna spend your money, you can at least earn some free money to spend on your next knife. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas over there. We're signing off. See you next time.
Rawr.